Thanks for coming back to the latest episode of the Credit Clubhouse. We are your one-stop shop for all things credit. Before we jump into our next episode, we have an exclusive offer for our listeners. If you're interested in attending any of our conferences throughout the year, we have a great deal for you. Just head to www.dealcatalyst.io, pick the event you want to attend, and enter the promo code CREDIT at checkout. This will give you 10% off any ticket to any conference. As always, don't forget to follow the show, rate us, and leave a review. We encourage your feedback. It'll help us make these episodes a better listen for you. And now, on to our next episode. Welcome back to the latest installment of the Credit Clubhouse. As always, I'm your host, Todd Anderson, Head of Content and Programming at Deal Catalyst. So we are close to the end of the year. And I think first I'd like to just say thank you for those who put us in your feeds, commented, rate, reviewed. When starting this effort, you never know where it's going to go. And I think the reception thus far has been quite positive from the broader Deal Catalyst community and those, who have, dedicated at least some time to the show, and really appreciate that. We have a lot more fun stuff planned in 2026 and beyond, hopefully. So please do continue following the show. If you ever have comments, want to reach out, talk about the show, come on the show, please feel free to reach out to me. It's just todd.anderson@dealcatalyst.io. So thank you. It's been fun doing the show, and personally I see it as a passion of mine. And so I don't view this as a job at all. And so, before jumping into a couple of fun things, towards the end of the year here, just a couple of things caught my eye this week in the private credit world. First is Apollo, after Mark Rowan put out that op-ed last week about 4 myths in private credit. They dropped a 120 plus page presentation on kind of defining private credit, and at least from the Apollo point of view, which I think is interesting, as we're starting to hear, a lot of continued noise and concern about the market. You have Apollo, doing in somewhat of a PR effort to put at least a positive light on the overall market. And I think, Dan Peterzak at KKR, similar in the sense that, when he was on Bloomberg's Credit Crunch podcast this week, he had talked about some of the, overblown nature of the commentary on private credit, given that a lot of the fundamentals are quite strong. And so there is some sensationalism around the market overall, but the fundamentals are strong. Where we are in the credit cycle, and what does some of the, underlying issues what might say about the overall market. But generally speaking, private credit is on a solid footing. You did have the, I think, arrest or at least charging indictment of the Tricolor founder and CEO, which is, certainly plays to the fraudulent aspect of some of what went on with both Tricolor and First Brands. But another item that caught my eye, and it was just this morning when thinking about kind of some of the things I wanted to talk about here on the show today, is a German pension fund. It was just reported in Bloomberg this morning. Lost, I think it was about 1.3 billion in private markets. They specifically reference ratings, which now brings up the other kind of underlying issue in private credit around valuations, and certainly will bring further scrutiny to the market. I mean, you had the Bank of England a couple of weeks ago say they're going to do stress tests, which will come out in a couple of years. And now you have, lawmakers, certainly in the U.S., starting to look at what these markets are becoming, whether or not there's systemic risk in them. There's also, I think, an unclear definition on exactly what people consider private credit these days. And we'll have an episode in the coming weeks that kind of dovetails into some of that stuff, and what is private credit from one firm to the next, and how that differs. But seeing a pension fund have to incur losses of upwards of 1 billion plus is certainly not good for. And this is beyond just private credit; it's more of the private markets. So that was not, not something good to see as we get towards the last couple of weeks here. But I'd say overall, while private credit has hit some bumps, I mean, you're still seeing hundreds and hundreds, if not billions, raised in the space. I mean, I think Mubdala, I saw a piece dedicating, I think, another 500 million. This one more on the real estate side. And you also had Deerpath, a middle market direct lender, raise 3.5 billion in a new fund, private credit focused fund. So you're seeing, while it does have issues, it certainly is not slowing down the fundraising side of things. And so the demand for private credit is still quite strong, even if there are, some bumps in the road that clearly the market, has been hitting the last couple of months. But, we still have a couple more guests that will come your way before the year is out. Excited about those. A little fund finance and a little, ABF related, guests that will be coming up. But a couple other things I wanted to do here before, the end of the year, and certainly to, my favorite time of year, which is Christmas time or holiday season, for those that don't celebrate Christmas. So I wanted to put together my top 10 of Christmas movies. And so I actually have three, I guess it's top 13, considering that there's three honorable mentions, but three honorable mentions before I get into the list in reverse order and ultimately leading up to number one. So you have Frosty, the Snowman, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, both made in the mid to late 1960s. My kids still watch both. They used to be afraid of the abominable snowman, but no more now that they're a bit older. And then the other honorable mention, which almost made it in, very, very close, was Four Christmases with Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon. So those obviously are three classics, but just missed my top 10, cut. So in reverse order, starting at number 10, is Polar Express, Tom Hanks movie, and the young boy taking a train up to the North Pole, and some lessons, certainly for the kids in that one, and the belief in Santa Claus beyond just a person, certainly believing in a Christmas magic. Number 9. A classic, another 1960s, which is Charlie Brown's Christmas. Gotta love Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. That leads into Charlie Brown's Christmas. How the Grinch Stole Christmas at number 8. Now you can go with the 60s version. You can go with the early 2000s, Jim Carrey. You can also go with, I think it was 2018, Benedict Cumberbatch did a cartoon version, which I actually liked a great deal with the kids. So number 8, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Number 7, this is probably my most controversial pick on the list, Love Actually. I was actually thinking it might go up, not to play on the pun there, actually. But I was close to moving it up because it is a bit of a favorite for me, but I think others would probably disagree, my wife included. Then It's a Wonderful Life is next on the list. A Christmas Story, a classic there. Christmas Story and the Red Ryder BB gun. And now I get to my top 4. The Holiday with Cameron Diaz, Jack Black, Kate Winslet. It's a classic movie. Now it's less about Christmas and more about taking a holiday, but obviously it coincides with the holiday season. Jude Law in it as well. Number 3, I think, is one that everyone would agree with should probably be in the top 3, and that is Elf with Will Ferrell. Number two, I mean, I guess you could put movie one and movie two together as like a conglomerate to make them number two, and that's the Home Alone. Only Home Alone's one and two, not three and four. My son watched three and four, and I'm not sure why those movies even exist. But Home Alone one and two are number two, and then drum roll, please. We get to National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation as number one. And so I watch it pretty close to daily during the holiday season, mostly late at night as I'm going to bed. There is no greater Christmas movie than National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. My dad loved it, who he's no longer here with us, but I love it. The kids like it. Once we hit Thanksgiving all the way through to New Year's, we watch it pretty regularly. I watch it almost on a daily basis. So, there's nothing better than Christmas movies, Christmas season, holiday season. And so that's my list. I'd be curious to hear your list. Feel free to reach out, or when I put this on LinkedIn, respond to me for a little fun and some holiday arguing. And then a couple other things I wanted to get to. I mean, first, last night's insane football game and what constitutes a 2-point conversion, which is pretty controversial apparently. But watching Seattle and LA essentially duke it out, though I'd say LA is probably the better football team, though. The way that game ended kind of leaves them in a little bit of a lurch as they head towards the last couple of the weeks of the season. But I think it was interesting to see Sam Darnold not fully fold, which was what we were all expecting, with 6 interceptions and no touchdown passes up until that point this year against the Rams. And you got a punt return, some luck with a 2-point conversion, and then a third straight 2-point conversion in overtime to give Seattle a huge, huge win, and now they're in the driver's seat for the number one seed in the NFC. I think the NFL, has just been unbelievable how much they've clearly dominated the sports landscape. I mean, once you hit late August all the way through to basically President's Day, it's NFL, NFL, NFL. College does do well, and we'll get to college in a minute here. But if you look at the ratings and the opportunities when it comes to TV rights and bringing it a little bit close to the world that I live in private credit and structured credit and the like, there are becoming more and more opportunities because of this one thing, without a doubt, performs when it comes to television is live sports. In particular, the NFL. There's many others that do quite well, but I mean, the NFL set records on Thanksgiving. It was basically almost 60 million people watched the Cowboys and the Chiefs. I mean, that's a half of a Super Bowl rating on a late November, middle of the season game. And so when you couple that with valuations of teams, as well as the inordinate amount that is generated from TV rights, and the fight that you'll probably see in coming years between streaming platforms and network television, I mean, there is just so much money and capital to go around, and that the sport is generating. And now they're starting to expand internationally. But then going into the last 3 weeks of the season, you see me with my Bills sweatshirt on. I'm hopeful, though scared, because every time I watch the Bills, it takes years off my life. That the Bills can kind of get themselves into an advantageous position, and given that Mahomes, Burrow, potentially Lamar Jackson, all will not be playing, I think Josh Allen has a unique opportunity this year to potentially take a run to the Super Bowl. But as a Bills fan, we know it tends to end in heartbreak. So I'm not going to make any predictions on the NFL. But turning my attention to college, because as the controversy continues to kind of go around the college football space, given that my Notre Dame Fighting Irish were left out, I think the one thing you can say about the playoff is, while controversial, has taken the sport to the next level. It is, without a doubt true that college football is probably the fastest growing sport in the US. I mean, just take the NBA Cup. This is that midseason tournament, which technically means nothing, but the players have played hard for it. So I have to give the NBA some credit in terms of gaining the interest of players. But you had the NBA Cup final the other night and semifinals, and you had ratings that were just over a million, basically. I think 1.4 or 5 for the Knicks semifinal game. And then if you look at what the Boise State bowl game did, this is a nondescript 38 to 10, 24-3 at halftime. Pretty ugly, disinterested bowl game. Almost 4 million people watched that compared to just over one for the NBA and the NBA Cup, which is supposed to be a premier event in the NBA season now. I mean, that is a damning rating for the NFL, for the NBA. And then if you would have put an NFL game against that, I mean, they would have crushed it by, probably 20 million. And so football is certainly continues to be king. And the playoff has been a genius move by the NCAA. And while it comes with a lot of problems, and the sport itself has a lot of problems, litigation, legislation, one thing is clear is that the sport has never been more popular. I mean, even these ratings shows, week by week, starting in I think mid-October, it's genius. All it does is have people talking about the sport for 3 months, over and over and over again. And when you get someone as much of a lightning rod as Notre Dame, you see that it just generates views and clicks and listens and shares and the like. And it's just a phenomenal change that the sport made. And it's hurt some of the traditional nature of the sport, the bowl games and conference championships. But I think it's taken the overall sport to the next level. And, I think the thing they need to figure out, and no one's done it because the NCAA is toothless, the conferences hold all the power. And will a super league be created? I mean, we talked a little bit about this with Stuart Mandel a couple months ago at the Athletic. The sport's in a weird position. It's never been more popular. The playoff has taken it to a next level, but yet it's never been more fractured, at risk of litigation and other legal challenges to it. But it's got millions of people watching its every move. And so, when you look at the deal even that the University of Utah made with Otro Capital, I mean, you had the Big Ten that almost sold off a equity stake to UC Investments that would have infused billions into the Big Ten. And then you have Otro Capital and the University of Utah football program that infuses hundreds of millions of dollars into them, which has now set off someone in Congress coming to the table with, I think, the Protect Act, which is supposed to stop private equity firms from owning parts of the college football teams or college athletic departments due to the college's nature of being tax exempt. So we'll see where that goes. But I think you're going to continue to see the merging of private equity and private credit and sports in coming years. And that's something we're going to explore a lot more here. I love watching sports. I mean, outside of obviously kids and family and work, it's pretty much all I do. And so to talk a little bit about that here with you, I think is fun for me. And hopefully you guys find it useful. And I'll try to make the direct connection as much as I can. But ultimately, I think podcasts should be fun. They don't always have to be super serious. And so I think you'll see more of that as we get into the new year, as I've kind of teed up in previous shows. But just looking at the college football field and the playoff field in particular, I mean, I think you could look at it as kind of 3/4 tiers. You have on the top tier, which is to me the three clear best teams, at least at this moment, in my opinion, is Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, and Oregon 3. Next, I think Indiana and Texas A&M are on that kind of second tier. Then everybody else is kind of bunched together. And then the final two, which is Tulane and James Madison, either if either of those teams win a game, it would be extraordinary. I think, they probably both won't even be competitive. Tulane, I give a better shot at doing that, but I think it lends itself to some good football games, which kick off tonight. I'm recording this Friday, December 19th with Alabama, Oklahoma, which should be a bit of a snooze fest if their previous game tells us anything. But I think you're going to find Georgia and at least in my opinion, Georgia, Oregon as your final, with the Bulldogs winning again. So some things I guess are that are old or new again, but I'd be curious to see how Indiana and Texas Tech and Texas A&M do. I mean, Indiana had the benefit of playing in the playoff last year. They got rolled by my Irish. But coming back this year, having the Heisman Trophy winner, it used to be a bad thing in the traditional college football world we used to live in. When the Heisman Trophy winner would go to the final game, whether it be a big bowl game or a national championship game, they tend to perform badly. So I'm curious how Fernando Mendoza will perform. But I think you'll find that it's either Georgia, Ohio State, or Oregon that will win. I'm curious to see if Texas A&M, Indiana, and Texas Tech in particular can get to a championship game. Unfortunately, my Irish, who I think would have been on that top tier, did not make it and were left out. I think that won't happen again, especially given that they do have an in next year based on an MOU that they signed with the playoff committee back in the spring. But hopefully you enjoyed my top 10. I do hope you share your top 10s or at least some of your top holiday movies with me, whether on LinkedIn when promoting this, or you could reach out to me anytime. Just todd.anderson@dealcatalyst.io. And continue watching, continue listening, continue joining me. I really appreciate it. As I mentioned at the top, your time. Time is precious, and you spend a little bit with us every week. So thank you, and until next time. Thanks for coming back to the latest episode of the Credit Clubhouse. We are your one-stop shop for all things credit. We have an exclusive offer for our listeners. If you're interested in attending any of our conferences throughout the year, we have a great deal for you. Just head to www.dealcatalyst.io, pick the event you want to attend, and enter the promo code CREDIT at checkout. This will give you 10% off any ticket to any conference. As always, don't forget to follow the show, rate us, and leave a review.